Calvin's. It's not like we're personal friends, but like he's a hero of mine. Like his journey of what he's been able to do. We talk all about it in abstract, where it's a way to create wealth, to empower people that want to work hard, are spiritually awake, that also want to serve others. But Calvin has really done it at just an incredible world class level. So I'm personally honored to be doing this webinar. Thank you, Calvin.
Certainly a pleasure, guys. Glad to be here.
Awesome. So the first question is like leading up to the beginning of your Wingstop journey. If you tell us briefly about what you were doing.
Well, prior to Wingstop, I was with another franchise concept, and I was doing franchise development there. I had a team, and I was showing the team. Our goal was to sell franchises, and this concept was out of state, and we were doing well. At least I thought we were. Until one day, I found out that things weren't as well as I thought they were. So it was certainly time for change. And I received a call, and it happened just like that. I received a call from a franchise attorney who I'd worked with one of my previous concepts by the name I Can't Believe It's Yogurt. And he told me that there was an opportunity that he knew of with an emerging franchise brand that hadn't franchised yet, but the principal wanted to. And his condition was that he really didn't want to get involved with this little no-name small entrepreneur because he basically his words to me was, this guy's a pain in the neck and he's more trouble than he's worth, for me. But he's so persistent that I decided that I'll give him a shot if he'll get the right franchise guy. And he's also said, my franchise attorney friend, he also said, I know how things are going with you. And I felt like this would be a great opportunity for you. And that's how I got linked up with Antonio Swad, who was the original principal of Wingstop Restaurants Inc. And that was circa 1997.
Cool. So now can you describe like how did you know that? So it is an early stage franchise, doesn't really have a track record. So how do you like what are the things that helped you know that this could work?
Okay, well, two things that struck me immediately. Once I scheduled a meeting to meet with Antonio, at this point, I was working out of state. Wingstop is based in Dallas, the Dallas area. I was in Oklahoma City. I was 200 miles away, and I would come home every weekend. So when I scheduled a meeting to meet with Antonio, the principal, and I walked in this little restaurant, and I mean, if I told you it was a hole in the wall, that was flattering. I mean, it was 1,140 square feet with maybe 610, with maybe 12 seats, little small hole in the wall operation. But what I noticed that was so unique to me is that everything was simple. There wasn't anything that was custom made. There wasn't anything that looked like it was special order. It was simple. So when I see simplicity in my franchise background, simplicity equals duplicatable. It's not hard to make this model again. That was the first thing that I knew, that I noticed. The second thing was the ultimate test was the food. And the food was exceptional. The food was something like I'd never had before. Now, understand, contrary to popular belief, I'm not this culinary genius like most people think when they see me. People always walk up to me, can you try this recipe? Man, I can't even read the recipe. Okay. Better get AI, somebody. I can't even read the recipe. So I don't even want to see it. I'm not the guy. But the guy that I am is a guy that knows food. You see, I was a corporate traveler for many years. And I ate on corporate American Express, entertaining clients at the best restaurant, everything from 5 star to no star.
Right.
So I knew good food. And even more importantly, I knew good service. So when I taste the food, I was hooked because I knew the food has such a uniqueness that I'd never tasted before. And guys, understand, this is 1997. I'm talking about a buffalo wing. And you guys being native New Yorkers or New York residents now, you know, the original Buffalo wing started in Buffalo, New York,
Yep.
like circa 1969, I think, a bar. It was just a bar food. Guy fried some chicken, threw hot sauce on it, and gave it to a bunch of drunks.
Right.
And now it's a multi-billion dollar industry.
Right.
So I knew there was something special there. And then Antonio and I had conversations, and I understood his philosophy. And philosophically, we lined up together. We were congruent there. It was a match made in heaven. Matter of fact, when I saw that place, I think I've said this before, but it's as if the little place had a halo around it. I just knew I was home. I knew I was home.
Cool. That's awesome.
Awesome. So that is your conviction, and now like you were hired to be the franchise developer, right?
Mhm.
To recruit franchisees. So how did you transfer that conviction and belief you have in the brand for other people to take this risk?
Yeah, well, the first thing you do when you with an emerging brand that no one knows, you go to your resources, you go to your database. And I had to go to my Rolodex. Now, back in those days, you guys got to Google what Rolodex is. I know you got a young audience, but I go to my Rolodex. You know, that was long before iPhones
Right.
and databases on computers and Google. But I started calling people I knew, and I was telling them about this brand. And I would call my friends in marketing. I said, guys, y'all got to come over here and visit this brand. And they said, what's the name? I said, listen, it's a concept. It's a brand called Wingstop. I'm going to do the offering for it. It's not registered. It's not a franchise yet, but we're going to do the documentation for it. This thing is going to be big. I said, guys, it's like something you've never seen before. And majority of my friends, you know, after we hung up, I got a lot of offers to, you know, feel free to drop your resume off on me. And, you know, I mean, you're a nice guy, and I see you need help. If you need a few dollars for gas, we'll take care of that. I mean, so all of a sudden my story starts sounding like a distress story, like come and get me. All right. And then finally, a gentleman by the name of John Hayes, who was a marketing expert, he was with one of the companies I had served for. I can't believe it's yogurt. John came over with his family. And John said, listen, I love the food, but I think this concept's going to fall flat on its face. So do the best you can and know I'm here. And in the meantime, I'll start looking for you.
Right.
So that was motivation to me because I knew that they thought it was going to fail, but I knew this thing would win. I had it in the bottom of my heart. I just had to find the right potential franchisee that could align with the vision. And in the meantime, I had to work with the other partners, Rex and Antonio, and get the core fundamentals of this offering formulated. Because even though the operation of franchise, the restaurant was up and running, we had to take what they were doing physically and put that in a form of a system that we could duplicate it. So while I was working on the FDD, which at that point was called the UFOC, Uniform Franchise Offering Circular, I would make notes on the mechanics of the business as I saw it being executed. And I would go over that with Antonio and Rex, the two guys that were in there on a day-to-day basis, and we'd agree on it. And that was going to be the core basis for our operating manual. And it later became our standard operating procedure. I mean, it was just that simple. That's how we got started.
Yep. So what of like today we like people know the unit economics for Wingstop is very strong, probably.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yep.
yeah. They're real strong.
Yeah. So what of then? Did you have that going for you? Like were the customers, were you just for the size, were you doing significant volume?
Yeah, well, we were really were. You see, the uniqueness of Wingstop then, the first challenge I had, Wingstop had very unique hours then. Wingstop hours then were Monday through Friday. The operating hours were from 4 p.m. until midnight,
Mm,
Monday through Thursday, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 11 a.m. through midnight. Now that's real unusual for the restaurant business because for the majority of the week, you have no day part, no lunch part.
right.
And the reason for that, the real reason, well, the reason I put on that is that it allows an operator to be a restaurateur and avoid that deadly pitfall of burnout.
Mm,
And that resonated because the research that I had done, most restaurateurs, the thing that they'll tell you is they're trapped inside those four walls. And their life is that restaurant. They can never detach because they're there from opening to closing. And many times, a lot of small businesses, if you look, they have less than 5 employees. So they are there. Those operators, those owners are in that business from dusk to dawn. Consequently, that generates burnout. They just get exhausted. However, with Wingstop, the beauty is you could take your kids to school, you could have lunch with your wife, and you can go and open that store at 3 o'clock and be home at midnight. Well, that was a unique selling feature. So we listed that. That was one of my special benefits of this particular brand that no one knew about. That's what makes us unique in that sense. The other thing I knew is that economically it made sense because what I noticed as a corporate traveler in all those years is that, if you generally, when you're having lunch, unless you're with someone like a client, you're generally responsible for feeding how many people? Who? You, one.
Yeah.
That's why in those days, if you look at most of the drive-throughs that I was researching, they all had these deals, these drive-through deals. McDonald's had a $3.99 meal and Burger King, and everybody had these deals for one. However, after 4 o'clock, if you go home, then that average ticket is higher because you're feeding more than one.
Mm.
So we knew we had the best day part for the higher average ticket. We also, because we cook everything to order, it probably took 13, 14 minutes to cook this order from start to scratch. We knew that one of the challenges most people were faced with during the lunch time, they're faced with time. You have a half hour, maybe 45 minutes, an hour. And in most cases, what I found is that if women go eat lunch together, they're going to want to eat, but they don't eat much, but they talk a lot. So that consumption time is even shorter. Guys, we'll get in the car and we'll just gobble as we go.
Right.
Okay, matter of fact, we might gobble twice. Depends on where we got to go and what we got to eat. So I knew the factor of time was a serious element. So in the evening, the unique thing about the evening, time isn't a factor because time, generally in the evening, you're going home.
Mm.
So we knew we had something unique with those hours, 4 p.m. to midnight. And that was appealing to someone who wanted to get in this business. And I'm looking at this from me being the operator. What would it take for me to get involved with this brand? A novice, someone that only consumes food. I didn't go to Cordon Bleu. I mean, this is not my thing. I'm looking for an opportunity that makes sense. So that would make sense to me. So I was sharing that information with everyone I spoke to about this potential opportunity. And one day, I was calling a lender. I was looking for someone who would finance this opportunity. Once we found someone who would get involved, would you provide financing for it? And a lender friend of mine, she told me about this young lady she knew who had recently downsized from the school system and was looking for an opportunity. And she said, you might want to call her because I know she just downsized. She doesn't want to be a school teacher anymore. She wants to do something different. And I said, great. I picked up the phone. I got back to my uh, corporate office, which was the restaurant, six-top restaurant table. I'm there working, got my stuff all spread out over the table. And I called her. And we set an appointment. She came by the next day and she tried the food. And philosophically, we were on the same page. And Antonio met her and Rex met her, and everybody just loved her. And we agreed that she would be a good fit. And that's how we found franchisee number one.
Wow. That's awesome. So,
Just like
so are you still in touch with her? Do you?
I am. I just talked with her. She grew her business to about a dozen units. She since divested,
Got it.
got involved in other franchise concepts. And I think last time I talked to her, I left her a message and she told me she'll call me back. She was on a cruise.
Got it.
So she did something right.
Right.
She's always cruising. I'm always working. Somebody missed it.
All right. Cool.
So you mentioned that you were thinking of this franchise development process as an operator, like if you were in their shoes. So then you actually made the switch, right, to buying into Wingstop as a franchisee. So if you tell us about how that happened, and then how were you combining the two jobs?
Yeah, well, the thing that I knew, guys, is that being on the inside and being part of the initial development of it, you know the secret sauce. And I saw how simple it was. And I saw how active it was because now the business is getting busy. This little restaurant is picking up some traction. It's almost as if we have a cult type following. We got people that are coming in from 20, 30 miles away, which is unheard of, to buy food. But because of the uniqueness of Wingstop having these proprietary sauces and seasoning, because that taste profile is almost addictive. If you find a flavor you like, you don't just like it, you love it. And it will literally call your name. I used to have customers coming in that would just say, golly, I've been thinking about this all week and I just couldn't wait till Saturday. So I'm here on Thursday. Another thing that drove the business was so unique. You're going to hear me mention the name Rex Heckelman. Rex is the gentleman that's responsible for developing the sauce and the seasonings. But one unique thing about Rex that I really love, we really hit it off. I mean, it was just a match made in heaven. When I met Rex, we were both young guys, but Rex and I, we have so much in common. We have both our birthdays are 20 days apart. We have to do all the same stuff. And at that point, I just started wearing my hair bald.
Right.
I was a bald head guy. Michael Jordan went publicly bald, so that made it cool for everybody black to cut their hair off. So I went on and cut my hair off and stopped looking like Bozo. I cut my hair all the way off and I started wearing a bald head like Michael Jordan. But and I meet Rex. And I love Rex off the bat, because Rex is bald headed too. Rex is a big, tall, white guy from Ohio and he's bald headed. So the first thing I look at Rex, I had to make sure he wasn't a cancer patient. I didn't want to get offensive, he's not on chemo. I mean, come on, man. I mean, how you feel? You're not sick, are you? He said, oh, I'm not fine. I said, okay, I just want to know. Just want to make sure you at your health. Don't want you fall out on me, because not many bald head white guys in the 90s, I mean, So he and I, we were the perfect pair. He was bald head white, I'm the bald head black guy. And we're two bald head guys from Wingstop, But the unique thing about Rex has this uncanny ability. He has a memory that's second to none. Rex can meet you today and he will never forget your name with your face. So I witnessed Rex call out customers' name
Mm.
that he hadn't seen in weeks, and it would just fascinate these people. It would fascinate me. Matter of fact, we had a customer, he became one of our regulars. He came in once and he would always had his guys with him. He said, man, do you remember my name? I hadn't been in here in 3 weeks and Rex is playing with them. He said, God, I got you. You forgot my name. Rex said, yeah, he said, yeah, Raph, you always got the same. He's God, you called my name, man. How did you do that? And then Rex asked about it. Rex said, how is Dorothy? I'm like, who the hell is Dorothy? Dorothy is his mom. I'm like, oh man, sell this guy a beer. I mean, gee whiz. Matter of fact, I'll buy a beer for him. I mean, guy never ceased to amaze me. It was things just that simple. The food, the customer service at an incredible level. You wouldn't expect that out that hole in the wall place. I'm talking 1,140 square feet in a strip center.
Right.
But they had Rex up here, and Rex is calling everybody, man, woman, and child. If he's met you once, he's calling you by your name. That's incredible. So I knew that was going to be a core fundamental that I was going to adopt because I saw how it worked. Something just that simple made that personal connection. So with that personal touch and service, along with that exceptional food and a nice, interesting environment that was clean, that's a winning combination. Guys, way back then, I'm talking then, that restaurant was generating $10,000, $15,000 a week. Now that's incredible when your average ticket was $5.99.
Right.
I mean, think about it.
Right.
what was even more fascinating for me as a potential operator and selling this to operators that our food costs were so low because wings were not as popular.
Mm.
So the demand was low, thus was the price. So we were bringing 25 to 26%, sometimes 27% to the bottom line. What that meant theoretically in layman's terms, you can take a whole week of earnings and put it in your pocket. Now, I'd sold franchises before. I'd never sold a franchise that had that type of flow through potential.
Right.
I thought it was exceptional, but yet still it was a secret, still. So when I started to sell these franchises, and before we made an earnings claim at item 19, I would instruct the potential franchisees to come in the store and just do a random survey of the number of customers and the average ticket and just do the math. I can't confirm or deny. I don't want to make an earnings claim
Right.
illegally,
Right.
but I can tell you you're in the ballpark.
Right.
It's certainly doable.
Right.
So the economics were there early on, even before the brand became popular. But once Wingstop disclosed the item 19, the rest is history.
Got it.
Because now the investor can see for herself or for himself.
Right.
And not only do I think it has potential to be profitable, I see it has potential to be profitable.
Right. So, but then when everybody can see that, then it becomes hard to get a territory. So you guys, Wingstop is now more selective in the operators they are starting.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now it's a different criteria.
Right.
By then in the early days, it was come one, come all.
Right.
I was talking to whomever would talk to me. I mean, we would go to trade shows. I never forget that we became members of the IFA.
Yep.
And I convinced Antonio that that was necessary. If you're going to be a serious player in this franchise arena, you have to be a member of the IFA. And I'd been a member of IFA in my previous careers with other franchise brands. So I was familiar with it. This was brand new to Antonio. I said, listen, let's go work the room at the IFA. Let's get business cards. Let's start talking the Wingstop story, the IFA. The big annual show that year was in Washington, D.C., the convention center. So we get ourselves cleaned up. We hop on a plane and we get to DC and we start talking about Wingstop, et cetera. Well, I go to all of my old database that I know, the people I know in the industry, and I introduce them to Antonio. So we're networking and talking, going to the various breakout sessions, talking about Wingstop. And I never forget, we walked by one concept. And I don't remember what it was. It was some sandwich concept. It could have been Subway, but there was a line of people. There was a line. There had to be 50 people in line waiting to get to this booth to talk to these people. And Antonio walked by and he said, wow, look at all those people. And I looked him in the eye and said, you know what, Antonio? The day will come when people will line up like that for Wingstop. He said, oh, you gotta be. He said, man, listen, I thought you must have went to the restroom and smoked something. I said, no, I'm serious. I said, no, I'm serious.
Right.
The day will come. I said, the only difference is I'm gonna make everybody line up by their height. We'll take the shortest guy first and get them all going just like this.
Right.
Well, believe me, if you look at where Wingstop is today, with the number of inquiries they get, they're literally lined up by their height,
Right.
wanting this brand at any cost.
Right.
I'm approached every week with somebody. How can I buy this? How can I get this? Well, it was an opportunity it was a different opportunity 25 years ago.
Right.
But it's a proven brand now, and it's a profitable brand.
Right.
Look, I'm still wanting chicken soup 30 years later.
Right.
Okay, so,
Right.
so
So what makes a great operator? Just like let's say when you're starting out, what differentiates a mediocre? So we know, like aside from the concept, just the manager, the franchisee, what makes a great franchisee?
a great franchisee, one characteristic of a great franchisee is a great franchisee has to have the desire to do exceptionally well. You see, there's only so much in life a person can be taught. I've always said, Greg, I can teach you the how to of anything. You're young, you're bright. I can teach you the how to. Greg, what I cannot teach you is the want to.
Right.
Okay. You got to have the want to.
Right.
You got to want to do it because I'm here to tell you, and I'm speaking experientially, you got to want to do this, especially in the food business, because see, the food business is hard. It's not hard because it's complicated. It's hard because it's physical and it's labor intense and it's difficult. And in Wingstop case, we were cutting all the potatoes by hand. The chicken comes in a raw state in 40-pound containers. That's heavy. You have to stack those. Now you say, well, I got help. And I had this mystical, magical dream. I was going to have a lot of people that I could always depend on. And that's what the corporate guy will tell you. The entrepreneur says, I got a lot of people, they just come to work late.
Right.
And some days they don't come at all. But I still have to open this business. So I can teach you how, but if you have the desire, because it's hard work because it's physical. But that's the only thing that's difficult about it. And it's also hard work because you have to manage your time differently. Because as an operator, not only do you have to make sure what's going on inside your four walls of your business is operating correctly, you need to focus on what's going on outside your four walls, inside your marketplace, so you can drive people to your brand or service. And that's what I would do extremely well. I mean, every morning before I go to open the store, I would make it a point to stop somewhere, stop at a convenience store and buy gasoline. Well, when I'm buying gasoline, I'm soliciting. I'm handing out menus. I'm talking to people at the pump. I'm going inside to get a pack of gum or a soft drink. And even though I got a restaurant full of soft drinks, I'm gonna go ahead and buy one from that cashier so I can tell her about this wing concept that's 2 blocks down that she never heard of. I'm even gonna tempt her. I'm even gonna offer to give her free food. Who doesn't want free food? And I'll write on the menu, you get 3 free wings today, but offer expires at 8 o'clock tomorrow. So I say, hey, you got to come today. Oh, I'm coming. You got to come today. And sure as heck, 9 times out of 10, they'll show up today. That's a customer I didn't have. And people always say, well, you go in. I have had potential franchisees say, well, how do you do that when there's a big sign say no soliciting? And my philosophy is, I'm not a solicitor. I'm a customer.
Right.
I came in to buy. And just so happened while I was here, I had a menu in my pocket. I just left the menu with the money.
Right.
So I left them both for you.
So you weren't shy. So
Oh, no. I mean, and I would say if you're an introverted person, then go get an extrovert.
right.
It's okay to be an introvert.
Right.
Just, there's an opportunity for everyone in business.
Right.
But no, I say if you can get out here and do it. One of the reasons I wasn't shy is because unlike my previous position in corporate, now as an entrepreneur, all of that financial responsibility is yours.
Yep.
Your name is on the lease. Your name is on the utility. Your name is on everyone's W-2 because they're expecting you to pay them. And at the end of the day, you pray there's something left because that's how you eat. So no, there's no time to be shy.
Right.
There's just, you don't even think about it.
So Miriam, it looks like we have a question from Angel.
Yes. So Angel is asking, if you were to start over, what would you do differently in the food and beverage world?
Well, the first thing I would do, and the person is Angel.
Yes,
Angel, the first thing I would do if I could start over is start younger. Okay, I wouldn't wait so long. The years I spent in corporate, I could have retired a long time ago. I'm not saying anything's bad with corporate. I don't want to get a whole lot of corporate hate mail. Okay, but the sooner you get started, the better. I would try it earlier. The other thing I would say in the food industry is I would focus on executing, make sure that the food is always consistent and always excellent. And in today's environment, I would try to do as much as I could to build a good social media following. Because unlike in the early days of Wingstop, when there was no social media, this thing we carry in our pockets that we live and die by, this device has been the make or break of many business concepts that I've seen. So that's what I would do.
So Angel has one more question. I don't know if you want to speculate, but I'll let you decide whether you can answer it or not. So he says, what are your top three up and coming brands and why?
Common brands.
Up and coming, like new brands.
Oh,
What are
up and coming brands.
yeah,
Well, and Angel, I haven't. If you look, there are a lot of brands. I mean, I would recommend this because I look at a lot of emerging concepts now. I would Google that question if I'm looking for a concept. I would Google it. We have all these resources. Google it, see what it tells you. Do a little research on those brands, see if that's something that makes sense to you, and then apply. Applications of all these concepts are the same.
yep,
They basically just want your name, your rank, and your serial number.
right.
Fill out a few financial questions, and they'll send you an FDD.
Yep,
When you get that FDD, when they send you that and you look at all these 200 pages, skip all that stuff. I go to item 19, take a look at the earnings, because if it doesn't make money,
doesn't
I
make
don't
sense.
care how nice and good it looks. I don't know many people that want to pay for an opportunity to lose their shirt. Okay, even though there are a lot of concepts out here that will offer that. So look at item 19 and look at item 7. Item 7 will tell you the initial investment. What is it going to cost you? It'll give you a range from high to medium to low. And look at item 19. If both of those make sense, then take a deep dive and I take a look at the leadership, see where the principles came from, see what their background is. What that tells you is, do they have the background and the competence to continue to support this brand? And the last thing I do is one of the last things I do is look at the list of the franchisees, see where their franchisees are, and look at their litigation. See if they've been sued recently. And if so, for what? Is it still an open case? Is it a closed case, etc.? And that's enough to get you started.
So you mentioned one thing, which is like looking at the franchisors, the people behind the brand, and if they have the ability to keep developing it. So kind of like when Wingstop started till now, even if it was a concept that was a great idea, I'm sure you still have had to change things, develop things, like food delivery apps became important, social media became.
Oh,
So how did
absolutely.
you know you had the right team to work with?
Well, your team always evolves.
Yep.
Yeah, your team always evolves. And as an executive, this is a characteristics of a good CEO and a good COO, as you guys know. Once you put your benchmarks out in your parameters that you're trying to measure, if you're looking for let's say transactions to increase, then there's a limited amount of resources that all of us have in our capability. There's only so much we know. And once we maxed out on what we know how to do, we have to go and solicit experts. So Wingstop has had a lot of trial and error with various companies to help move the needle, so to speak. So they have continued to bring on new professionals in different industries, from different industries, to help this particular brand grow. If you look at the corporate office now, boy, I tell you, it's like a who's who in the business world of every particular discipline, from IT to HR to just, logistics, distribution. They have now gotten the best of the best because it's such a huge brand now. So you're always evolving as a concept. You're always looking for fresh and new talent. Because listen, Antonio took this thing as far as he could take it. Then he took a couple of truckloads of money and went to the Bahamas. Okay.
So he's in Bahamas. Oh, we didn't know that.
Well, yeah, well, I think he has a house there. I think he has a house. I hope he's everywhere. Man, I hope he's everywhere, but where all this wartime is. But no, he's all over the place, and that's what you do. And now the private equity group that owns it now, the Roth Capital, they're a big multi-billion-dollar organization that owns probably a disproportionate amount of the food and beverage concept franchises that they're on the market now. They're based out of Atlanta.
Yep.
But before Roth, there was another private equity group, the original one that divested Antonio, and all of those guys have spun off and started other franchise brands. So that's kind of how this thing goes. And I'm sure one day, if someone comes along and approaches the principals at Roth Capital with a multiple that makes sense to them, then they'll say bye to Wingstop, and someone else will say hello to Wingstop. You know
Right.
how that thing goes.
Right.
So,
Cool.
Really
So
cool.
I guess I'm going to go back to a question about how you were building out. So when you were building out additional locations, eventually you found some real estate that was, I'll say it wasn't in a wealthy neighborhood. So
mhm.
what was your thinking behind that? How did everyone, was it an obvious play to go to those, to bring Wingstop to those neighborhoods?
Well, the way I looked at it is the advantage that I had is that I knew the area. And it's always an advantage if you know the neighborhood. And when I start looking at expansion or scaling,
Yep.
one thing I share with most entrepreneurs is scale wisely. Matter of fact, this company I just started with these guys, it's called Scale Wise. Man, what a
Hmm.
fuck. Okay. I hope y'all tape that. Let me hear that
Yes,
again. When
we'll put on their
okay,
website.
y'all send that to me.
Yeah,
Okay.
we will.
Yeah, but what I tell most entrepreneurs is scale wisely. And one of the things I knew as when I went from my first store to my second store, a key component, a key factor, let me know it was time for me to grow, is that I'd reached a level of profitability that was consistent.
Hmm.
I was consistently profitable. And I also had cash reserves of 6 months to 8 months, where if I didn't sell anything, I could float this new venture.
Hmm.
Okay, so I wasn't going to be in an undercapitalized situation. And if you look at it in statistics, one of the key components of the destruction of most small business is that they're undercapitalized. Not that they're not a good concept, they just don't have enough money to weather the ramp up time in most cases. So they run out of money, they get into stress, start compromising, et cetera, and that leads to failure. So when I started to look for a second location, I started to look for a location where with our customers coming from. And I did a little in-depth research with our customer base. I would start having our cashiers, people on our front line, asked our customers when they called in an order, out of curiosity, could you share your zip code with me? They'll say, well, I'm from 76011, I'm from 23567, and we write these zip codes down. And I would bring those zip codes back to my office, and I had my admin just put these zip codes in every week. So we would see where our customers are coming from. And I did that. I did that for about a 2 month period. And I took it to my real estate guy and I said, listen, I need a location in these zip codes. And he was able to put it in his database and just give you this, what I call this measle map, this map with all these dots over it.
Right.
You got customers here, which makes sense, 3 to 5 mile radius. But over here, 8 to 10, look at all these dots you have. And I noticed I had a disproportionate amount of customers over here. So even though I wasn't really focused on that area originally, well, now logic says you might want to focus over here because there you already have a brand recognition. You got people driving from here all the way to your unit, 8 miles away to do business with you. What would happen if they had to only drive a mile away? Would they do business with you more frequently? Well, logic say they probably would. It's more convenient. So I shifted my focus from where I was originally looking, which really was a part of town where we didn't have anybody, maybe one or two people coming from. But I thought it was a good place because it looked good to me,
Mm.
but I didn't know enough. I thought I did, but once we got some data from our existing customer base, it proved not to be true. And when I opened that store and it was successful, I did the same thing inside that store to see where their customers were coming from. And the customers literally dictated my growth for me. And everywhere I went, it just got better and better and better.
That's awesome.
That's how I did it. Now, that's in the old days. Obviously, technology is such now, you don't have to be as rudimentary
Right.
and as basic as that is. But
It's the
that
same concept.
it's the same concept. Find out where your customers are. Absolutely.
Yep. And then you mentioned something like keeping the store clean. And I know in the past you've talked about the windows, making sure that they're clean, that people are not touching them.
Right.
That was important to you to maintain some brand standards and even how you have your employees talk to call your customers names.
Well,
So
see, it's so important. It's not only important to me, I knew it was important to our customers. One thing I noticed very early on, the majority of our customers were female.
mm,
And unlike Greg, you and I, we may overlook a few things.
100%.
It's just not important to me.
Right.
I care less. But my wife is probably going to spot everything.
Right.
And one of the things that she's a big stickler on, I mean, she won't even go in a place if the door is all messed up, like a lot of fingerprints on it. I mean, she'll try to pull her sweater down and grab the handle or something. This is all, I mean, I'm talking about prior to COVID.
Yeah. So Miriam, she doesn't like it when basically I touch my laptop so you can see my fingerprints on it. I don't
Right.
even notice it, but
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even notice it either. I don't even notice it either, but she's a stickler for that kind of thing. So I started making sure that we would do things like clean the windows. And one of the things that I would always do, there used to be back when newspapers were popular, and people had these throwaway magazines, like the Green Sheet was one, where people would advertise things in this throwaway newspaper for sale. I will let these guys come and post their Green Sheet inside my stores because they change the Green Sheets out every week. But the beauty of the Green Sheets is it did two things for me. It gave our customers something to occupy their time and thumb through while they're waiting for their food to be prepared. So it was a distraction, literally a good distraction tool. But even more importantly, the Green Sheet in Windex is the best thing you can clean a
yes.
window with.
Yes.
So I tell my crew, listen, don't use those paper towels. I buy those every week. Let's use this guy's Green Sheet, So they
Right.
go get the Green Sheet, ball it up, and that was the best thing for cleaning a window.
Yep.
And we kept the windows clean, and we kept the floors were spotless. And because we were in a galley kitchen that you could see the front door from the back door,
Mm.
I made sure that you could look straight in the kitchen and see how clean it was. And you would be surprised how impressed that people were with that, especially women. We would get the comment, wow, it's so clean in here. I just can't believe it. It's so clean because a lot of places, the reason you can't see the kitchen is because you don't want to see the kitchen. Okay.
Right.
And they don't want you to see the kitchen. If you saw the kitchen, you turn around and leave.
Right.
Okay. But that's why we use our kitchen as a display because we were glad we were there. And I made a big deal. I would always tell my guys, make a big deal out of washing your hands.
Mm.
So my guys would get there in the three compartment sink and they'd do this thing, man. They lather up, they do all this thing, they shake their hands, and everybody, oh man, and I'd often see women just walk away, just acknowledge, yeah, okay, okay, I see that guy wash his hands because we're dealing with raw chicken.
Right.
They literally grab raw chicken with their hand, they put it in a basket.
Right.
After they've dealt with that raw chicken, they take their clean hand and turn the knob. They got to make a big, I say, you listen, you make a big production out of that. I mean, and you make sure, and you look up and you'll see somebody looking you right in your face because they're noticing the little things. And once I used to have women always talk about it. They say, golly, they sure love to wash their hands in that place. Well, if you gotta make a comment, I think I'll take that one.
Right.
I think I'll take that one. So we were known for that. And the other thing that we did that was a little bit different than the other stores and the other restaurants in our community is that we would always address our guests formally. We would get your name, And if you tell me your name is Miriam, we would say it's Miss Miriam or Mr. Gregory, et cetera, et cetera. Just little things like that. It just differentiated us. And our customers grew to expect it. Matter of fact, we would have a group of guys come in, and these guys, these guys were hilarious. They would come in, and I'm sure they've been called some names all day, but no one's called them Mister. They come in, they say, "Oh man, he's not gonna call you Mister. Everybody know you nothing but a loser." And he's like, "Oh, you watch, he's gonna call me Mister." And when he called him Mister, he says, "Oh, what I tell you, oh man, listen, he said, I don't call that bomber Mister. He's a loser." I mean, they just be out there, getting this rivalry going, but it lifts these guys' self-esteem. Something as little as that. Who would have known? And these guys come every other day, week after week after week. And all of a sudden, a little store that costs you very little to build then is generating some crazy revenue. Matter of fact, when you tell someone the kind of money you're earning, they often doubt you.
Right.
They often doubt you because they can't believe it. But it's just the simple principles. Keep the place clean, keep the service exceptional, along with great food. It's not a hard recipe. Executing it is one thing,
Right.
laying it out is the other.
Right. But do you think, like, for example, when you had kids, so how did you think of did you think of passing this on to your kids? Is it like, how did that go? Or why did you decide to sell?
Well, I have three children,
Yep.
and my two oldest girls, I think I kind of turned them off on the business, which was a good thing because they're both very successful.
Yep.
You know, which was a good thing. They worked in the business young as teenagers. They were like 13, 14. And I had them in the business and they were waiting on customers. They had them picking up trash and all that. And that wasn't cool socially.
Right.
So they didn't want their friends coming there and they're here sweeping the floor.
Right.
Socially, that was unacceptable. And it's kind of crazy for me because, I'm an inner city kid, but these are suburban kids.
Right.
So when their suburban friends come in and, they just come from the country club, they've been playing tennis or something, and here you are over here sweeping trash up out of the corner, that wasn't so social.
Right.
So I always know when one of my daughter's friends were in town because they'd always take a restroom break. I say, "Hey, where's y'all?" "She's still in the restroom." "Oh, it must be somebody she know out here." I mean, because she's hiding out. I mean, she want to be still social. She still got to go to school.
Right.
And I didn't understand the dynamics until my wife had to explain to me one day. And they were not the best employees, but I was just trying to keep them in there to show them this work ethic thing. And it was real good because my sister-in-law worked with us and she had no prohibitions in firing them. She said, "Listen, y'all go home and just don't come back." So she called my wife, "They come pick them both up and keep them." I said, "Okay." So, you do it. You don't have to live there. You do it. Okay. And my son, he worked the business for a while, but it wasn't his passion. And one of the things I think is detrimental to entrepreneurs is that you have to understand your dream is not your kid's dream.
Yep.
Find out what your kid's dream is and help her or him cultivate and curate that dream,
Right.
even if it's using your concept. And I mean, I have a daughter I have a daughter's director in the childcare space. I have a daughter that was a judge. She practiced law. She's a judge. My son now, he's in the automobile industry. He runs a parts and service department. So, my kids are doing what they wanted to do.
Right.
They had no desire to wear a chicken suit like their
Right.
dad did, But it's interesting. But they used to be ashamed of it, but no one's ashamed of the brand now.
Right.
It's amazing how things change.
Right. That's awesome.
And on that point, we'll ask kind of like a hard question, so you don't have to answer, but anything you can share. Basically, like when you exited, what are those, valuations or numbers? Just to give, the scale of.
Yeah, well, if you have a brand that is in high demand like Wingstop, and you're considering scaling, you got to understand your business is only worth what someone is willing to pay. You know, in business school, we learn all these multiples, EBITDA times three, EBITDA times five, EBITDA times this. I say EBITDA times EBITDA is blah. Forget all that. You know, that's for some PhD, you know, that's already vested at some campus level. And that sounds good when he or she says it, but they've never done anything besides be a PhD. Okay. I mean, all due respect. I don't want to hate male. Okay. Okay. Listen, you sell your business for all you can get. Okay. And I don't care what the number is. Crazy. My number was so crazy, it took me 2 days to get a response. Because I
Got
said crazy. And my last response was, you meet this number, I'll bring the keys to your house. My email was it. I took the keys to it. I took the keys to his house.
it.
So don't be afraid to ask. Don't be
Wait, so
afraid.
you asked for what for the number? Did you suggest the number the day?
I suggested the number.
Got it.
I suggested the number.
So
And
was there like some calculation? So let's
oh
say
yeah,
you
well
had
they do their own calculation. Yeah,
a number of stores,
they'll look at your sales.
right?
They'll look at how long it's going to take to break even, to recover that money, and what does it mean to their overall plan, their overall strategy. What do they want to do personally? So I strongly recommend for those who have businesses now and you're looking at an exit strategy, look for someone that has the resources and the long-term objective to pay your premium for your business, whatever those goods and services are. If you're just looking for someone that's want another startup opportunity, that may not be your best prospect simply because they're probably going to be undercapitalized and they're trying to buy a larger cash flow than they can afford.
Right.
Okay, go for someone that has the resources that can take on your opportunity. Now it has to make sense for them, but you ask and let them tell you no,
Right.
or let them counter your offer.
Right.
And generally it works out. It works out well. You know, I'm building another business now with the group of guys. This business we have now, scalewisefranchise.com. I'm helping people grow and scale their business using the franchise space.
So
Okay.
tell me, Leah, can you describe that? So you mean you're helping franchisors or prospective franchisors?
I'm helping I'm helping individuals who are not yet in the franchise space.
Mhm.
Let's say, Greg, you had a hamburger concept that have these brilliant hamburgers and you want to grow that.
Yep.
What I'm going to suggest to you is that you use franchising as a business model to scale.
Yep.
You say, well, I don't know how. Well, guess what? ScaleWise does. We have in this consortium of expert consultants, which I'm a part of,
Yep.
we have franchise attorneys that can help you with all the FDD documentation. We have accountants and financial people, CPAs, that can help you put the necessary P&L and the balance sheet together to make sure that's in order. If you're looking for marketing and advertising, we have that expertise. And if you're looking for day-to-day operations, then that's where I come in because I can help you simplify that system
Mm.
to where it's duplicatable. And that's what franchise does because think about it. Franchising is only a way to scale a brand. That's all it is. On the franchisor, they just don't use their money. Franchisors grow the strength of their brand on other people's money.
Yep.
And for that, they participate in your success.
Yep.
They call it royalty.
Yep.
And you pay a percentage to help them continue to grow the brand in a marketing and an advertising fee. That's all part of the franchise disclosure document.
Yep.
Yeah, that's how McDonald's went from the one store with the Kroc brothers to the 25, 30,000 location McDonald's have. They scale that brand with franchising.
Or Wingstop.
And just like a Wingstop, that one little store is now over 3,000 units in 7, 8 different countries. Franchising. And franchising works. Franchising works. It's a proven fact in our country. Franchising works, and it works well for all the right reasons.
And you're proof of that.
Oh yeah, I'm proof of it, guys. Listen, I don't ever confess to be the guy that was so brilliant. I just saw an opportunity. I'm just a, God, I grew up an inner city kid and never thought I'd be where I am today. But I saw what happened if you take a brand and you execute the brand well, address the needs of a community, and even more importantly, you sow back into that community. It's one thing to be successful, I think. It's also another thing to be successful and make sure the community that you do business in is successful also. So you hire the people from there and you sow those seeds back into that community. As that community will keep bringing the seeds to you. And it's a biblical principle. It's give and it'll be given unto you. We hear that growing up as a kid. Give, it'll be given unto you. It's more blessed to give than to receive. Only reason that makes sense is for you to be able to give. You've already received.
Right.
So it's worked out good for me, guys. I mean, I'm here. I'm on I'm probably in the last stages of this life. I'm 66. I've had a terrific opportunity in the field of franchising, and I want to help others. Right now, what brings me the greatest amount of joy is to see entrepreneurs succeed. And that's why I've decided to work in this capacity with ScaleWise to help them succeed. So they don't have to do the same pitfalls that are out there. I know, I've lived it. I know what makes this thing work. Like I said, I can teach you the how to.
Right.
All I want to know is that you got the want to. And you have to have some capital. It does take money. Okay, it does take money. So that's it.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Calvin. Thank you very much. Like you're extremely wise in my view, and you're spiritually awake, and like you're a great human, and I'm really glad you succeeded. And it was great that you shared your story with us.
All right, guys. Well, listen, I hope that's been a benefit to someone. And whenever I can be of service to you, don't you guys hesitate. And if you ever here in the Dallas area, you guys look me up. You got my number.
Yes, we'll absolutely be in touch.
All right.
Awesome.
All
Thank
right.
you very much,
Take
Calvin.
care, guys.
Thank you,
It's a
Calvin.
pleasure.
See you.
Bye bye.